Okay.
Who is taking the minutes?
Chris, okay, Chris is gonna take minutes.
All right, I think that's pretty good.
If you do that.
Okay.
Or somebody. Well, we didn't do the minutes from the last meeting, so
Oh, the last, yeah.
the last meeting last month. We're gonna ask you, Chris, to see. Do it for us. We'll see. Oh, let's start the meeting. Today's Corporation of Harpers Ferry Budget and Finance Committee. In attendance is Chris Craig, Storm, can you pronounce it? DeCostanzo, Deb Kelly, and Christian Petricone is the chair. This is a regular meeting held in Town Hall at this time. We are on Zoom. This until further notice, Corporation of Harpers Ferry governing deliberative bodies will hold its meetings and or by Zoom webinars, which provides for public participation during a comment period when applicable or when posted on the agenda. Alternatively, the public may watch a YouTube video live stream or listen by telephone. And these options comply with the West Virginia Open Governmental Meetings Act. Call the meeting to order. Approval of the agenda.
So
Okay. I'll second that. All those in discussion? All those in favor? All right, good to go. All right, first item is discussion and action if necessary regarding increasing the municipal court fee. This originated with the mayor in conversation with the magistrate. And as you can see from Deb put together the
Yeah, I've actually received some more clarification
Oh,
about what we're
please.
talking about, so let me.
we need more info.
So terminology is a little bit of a confusion here, but essentially what we're talking about is not a municipal court fee, but the fee that we pay to the magistrates when they come in for an impromptu arraignment.
Yes.
And so that can be 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it could be 3 o'clock in the morning. And they come in on a called in basis, and they have been being paid $25 per occurrence since that need was established, whenever that might have been.
The mayor was indicating to me almost 20 years.
I think probably maybe even more, but anyway, yeah. So I did a little bit of analysis on what we did last fiscal year. We utilized the magistrate 10 times, I just wrote it down. Anyway, it was a total of $500 for the year. The thought was to increase that to $35 was one of the proposals. I've heard other numbers thrown out. I mean, at it was a total of 20 times. So for the whole fiscal year. So even if you made it twice that, it would be $1,000. We have budgeted $1,200 in our line item for that for this year. So I don't think that you'd be busting the budget, and even if it had to be adjusted a small amount, I think even if you doubled it from $25 to $50, so you have a range to work with. That's what I'm.
Okay. Guys,
Can I clarify something? When it says call in, that's just basically to be on call. It's
Well, yeah, these guys are
generally
always on call, whoever they're not, we only have, well, yeah, we need some more magistrates, but
but
yes,
it's
this
generally
person
in
is always
person.
on call, huh?
It's generally in person though.
They have to come in person, and someone is there, and they have to arrange it. And so it's, it could be any time.
Okay.
Yeah, like if they bring somebody in at 3 o'clock in the morning, then they need someone to arrange the person to decide whether they're in jail or what they do.
Mhm.
And so that's what this is, and we'll need to adjust our wording when we take this to council, but that is content.
yeah, I feel it's important that the amount be an incentive and recognition of the time, and it
Yep.
sounds like it's way up scale. One question, you said it's a range. Is this something that it's kind of unusual because we don't have staff, that usually this would be a town employee? Is there a comparable
So
range?
I only said, I said that you have a range to work with between, I'm certainly 50 would be enough, and I just set that range. But, as it happens right now, Susan is a person who can function as a magistrate. Now, when she would do that, if she were asked to do it, she would clock out of being an employee, and she would go on the clock as a magistrate and be paid separately as a contractor as a magistrate. She doesn't do it very often. And we only do then have the one other magistrate right now that we utilize. But we wouldn't necessarily want to have, we would want to have others than town employees fill this role. We want to have people from our community doing this, yeah.
What I'm asking, are there any benchmarks? Are there other towns that have arrangements like this, or is this unique?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's unique, but I don't have the benchmarks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the mayor had $135.
Yeah, and I talked to him about it
We can
today,
start
and he
there
said,
and we can
whatever,
change this later on.
and if you even propose 35, if town council wants to make it a different amount, they can do that too, and it goes to council.
Yeah, I would say, like, I'm actually inclined for it to be a bit more, but I think if we present to council as 35 was suggested, and then I think it's better for the council to discuss that, if it's the actual amount. But it sounds like,
Well, I would suggest it'd be us kind of coming up with the number, because they usually, that's how the budget finance committees
Okay.
work. It's really, we have given them what numbers work. I'd like to hear numbers, and then they'll prove it, or
got it. So really, the only thing that would bless the budget on this is we had a year where just there were so many
Right.
people getting rung up on tickets, that the magistrates were just constantly in and out, and if that's the case, we're probably seeing more revenue
That's right,
from
we'll
that,
get more
so it
revenue
will
from
still
that.
zero out.
Yeah.
In that case, I think it should be higher than that, 35. And you said as much as 50 would not bust the budget, as it is.
I concur.
Chris?
I'd go with that.
So if somebody wants to make a motion, we have some verbiage there, somebody wants to do it.
I move that we adjust the rate for magistrate calls from $25 per.
If you go down to the next set where it says recommended right here, it's
Okay.
written right there.
Those, that helps to have that stuff.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so withdraw the first one.
I move to increase the rate for magistrates to attend call-in municipal court or traffic court to $50 per occurrence.
$250, okay, per occurrence, okay. Effective date.
Mhm.
You wanna give
If
it
you
the-
would make it, you could make it the day after, the next town council meeting,
Um,
was it the call?
which is gonna be it would become the 14th of September.
14th.
Okay, effective the 14th of September.
14th September. Thought, maybe do it.
Okay.
We have some different verbiage, a little, just changing a few words. That's it.
And I pointed exactly to that, although you clarify that for you, but yeah, if we can withdraw that, we can make it one that includes the proper language.
Say call. It's a rain.
Okay,
So first you would need to withdraw, can somebody second?
No,
okay, I do withdraw that motion.
that's why we don't want to jump on seconds.
Or correct, until the motion is repeated, it can actually still be withdrawn. Even if it's second.
So I move to increase the rate for magistrates to attend for arraignments, municipal court or traffic court to $50 per occurrence effective the 14th of September 2021.
I second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. But you can have my sheet there. If you want,
Okay.
for all the proper verbiage. Okay, number 2, I guess is what that's here. Discussion action if necessary for the replacement of benches for town park that's alongside town hall located on Franklin and Washington streets.
I think these attachments were, did you get these attachments in your packet?
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I had that as well.
I didn't have.
You know that. It was in the zip.
Yeah, I remember that before, again, the request and not in the backup.
So currently there are 3 metal benches there, one's got a hole in
You
it.
come over here so you're on
Yeah, I
camera.
want to move.
Yeah, you took come over here so you're on the camera.
What if that's calling in?
All right, fine.
So basically, one's got a big hole in it and you can't use it. And the other 2 are matching and they belong to the women's club. So the women's club, been working with the women's club and the mayor to clean up this park. And so they were asking to replace all 3 benches so that they would match. The benches that I'm showing you are the closest to what we put in at the gazebo. The ones at the gazebo are no longer available, but this is the next closest thing. They will fit on the current pads that are poured there, and they do get secured down to the ground. And the benches are a good price. Where you get nailed is the shipping. So we're asking the budget and finance in the town to replace those 3 benches with this. The current benches will then be given back to the women's club because they own them.
Okay.
So that's where they're going.
First, I'm relieved, because when you said you're going to ask the Budget and Finance Committee, I thought you were going to complete that by saying, drive to Batavia, Illinois.
And pick them up.
So these will then be owned by the town?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so we don't have to worry about the disposition of the old benches. We're gonna keep them.
Yeah, we're gonna keep them and they'll be given back to the women's club.
Yeah,
Is there any, I assume, our maintenance man is going to be doing this?
Yes. Yes,
so this will be the entire cost is the cost of the benches plus the shipping.
that's correct. And then the only thing would be Larry's time to help put them together and then install them, which means fasten them to the pads that are already out there.
Okay, so that's outside of his regular duties, so that's something we're contracting with him outside.
No, it would be part of his responsibility. We would not be paying him separate for
I
that.
see,
It would be part of his responsibility.
gotcha. Well, I think that's,
Mhm.
understood, thank you.
Do we have to get this on bid or we?
I was just gonna ask, do you have any other numbers?
Nope, I went straight to them because I've looked in catalogs and the prices are all pretty comparable. And we've dealt with this company before and they're very reliable, so I did not.
And Deb, you may know better, I've been reading up on Turnet, in connection with the water company. It's not the best practice, but for items under a certain dollar amount, that it can be acceptable. Of course, right now, we don't have what they call formal policy.
$500.
Well, the question is, does this fall under that since it's,
Well, I mean, it's high enough that we should have something to look at to compare.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, the individual benches were 300 and change,
That's not,
so it's when you add them together and then the shipping is almost the cost of a bench.
gosh.
yeah, I think we're going to have a couple more bids. I mean, I'm not against this, I'm fine with it, but I mean, until we change our, right now, we're meeting, right now, the Budget Finance Committee is meeting to change up our entire procurement thing, and it's from 2015, and it was, I think it was pretty good, but it definitely needs to be updated, especially the dollar amounts, and we have made some suggestions where, we're going to, we might have been able, the mayor could have kind of approved, not at that point yet, get that approved.
Yeah.
So could you make a motion to possibly find funding for the replacement of 3 benches not to exceed X amount of dollars? And then we get you additional bids so that this
we
does
could do
not
that.
get held up. Because I can get you those tomorrow.
Great.
And I would hate to now make this an October issue when we could have them installed by October.
I'm with you on it. We're just trying to follow
Okay,
town protocol.
yeah, I'll be happy to get other bids.
Yeah, I think that'll
So if
cover
she
it.
can email that to you guys and you can see that summary, then you'll have that to look at.
And she's handling the whole process. Right, you're doing the whole.
Yeah, I kind of got,
You're ordering and.
right.
I'm not saying put them in, but.
Yeah, I think I'd be comfortable making the motion to that effect.
What the mayor's goal is to get this park, this is our showcase when we come into town. And unfortunately, the Women's Club, who has maintained it for decades, the members are dwindling and they're finding it tough to, get in there and do this work. And so the mayor asked me to get involved to see how we could get this park up and running, especially for the fall season. And so that's why I've got some maintenance issues to bring up to you as well. But we started with the benches.
We should put down the account number that it's come from. You know what that might be?
Take it from 906 and
Nice.
Article 753 of our ordinance discusses under 753.01B for the construction or maintenance of public parks, tourist information centers, and recreation facilities. So you can use that.
I'm not gonna be good at minutes today.
Is that
I'm just gonna miss too much.
So you think you can get some minutes?
Let's see if I have.
It's hard for the chair to do it as well.
Yeah,
Do you need paper?
this will be.
Sure, I got a
I
pad.
can get a whole pad.
Please do, yes.
Think about a motion. Oh, I could do it.
Yeah, I think I have it.
Oh.
Just add contingent on having these visits.
And they're very competitive if you guys online. And again, we've worked with this company before, so.
And they match what we already have.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
There's a
Believe
lot
me,
of-
I've been through this
Support
ringer
that.
repeatedly on bids, so it's,
Okay,
this is easy to approve bids.
Right, yeah,
This is easy.
I'll have it for you tomorrow morning.
I'd like to make a motion to approve up to $1,500 for the purchase of 3 park benches. Subject to obtaining 3 bids.
From,
From
Account
From
number.
account number 906,
Alright.
Arts, Humanities Preservation.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
and when you do a council, then you can identify the vendor if you want to.
Yeah, I'll have to submit this to.
Right.
I'll have to submit the other one too. Okay, all right. That'll be my job. Okay, next is item number 3, discussion and action. Necessary approval of funds for landscaping and maintenance of the town park located, again, at the same park, we're
Same park.
talking about it, Franklin and Washington Street.
So what happened was Carol Carter came in and made a wish list for the mayor for his request.
Now Carol Carter is.
She's with the Women's Club.
Women's Club, okay.
She's not the president of the Women's Club, that's Fran.
That's right, yeah.
Mansky. And so she gave us this list and I reached out to 3 landscape companies per the mayor's direction. R&L said, too busy, can't see you. Through the
Can we get
government,
that documented? That's a
I
bid.
might have an email.
All right,
Most of this was phone calls.
no, well, if you can get a.
Depending on how much money it is for.
Well, Through the Garden said that they would call me back and schedule someone to come see us, and that never happened. And I've made several repeated phone
Okay.
calls, but never got them.
I get it.
Cornerstone came in, and she met with me and Carol and Fran and Larry. And we went over our wish list. And basically what we were asking was to come in, clean the park up, edge it, all the flower beds like the women used to do, mulch it, and get the fountain cleaned up and running. Apparently that fountain does run. But there was a rumor that it doesn't run because there was a leak somewhere along the line. So, and then to put some seasonal flowers in. And then what we talked about is ongoing maintenance, like in the spring, you come in and what would you charge us to maintain this park, including the mowing, the mulching, yada, yada, yada. Because Larry would only mow, and his expertise in keeping this a clean piece of real estate, the mayor felt we needed a little assistance. So that's why we did this. So the first bid that came in, and I have it here for you, I only gave you the top 2 pages, not the whole thing.
Well, we gotta get that, I didn't get that.
No, I, here, 3 copies. $10,000. Because the women also said, oh yeah, can you make us a little retaining wall in front of the one garden to match, you know? So we just said, give us your wish list, and here it came. So I called them back after I choked, and I said, nope, can you sharpen your pencil and just tell me, what can you do to get us looking great for the fall, including the fall flowers? And that came to $2,198. The $2,198 does not include, if we go back to the first bid, the fountain service for $640. And that is something that we really, really, really want to get done. And that includes painting it, cleaning it really well, painting it, getting a fountain hooked up to it, and they're looking at solar, so we don't have to deal with the electricity. So I would add that $640 to the $2,198. So then I reached out to the water company and I said, can you turn that on for me? You know, where's this leak? Can you identify where the leak is? So I met the water guys out there, they turned it on, there's no leak. I actually could hear it, and I went over to the fountain, and the fountain still went up. So there's no leak. And there's also a spigot thing over there, there's no leak on that as well. So eventually we would turn this on all the time, but have a lock on it so that Larry, the water company, the women's club, and whatever landscaper we own, whatever combination, so that they could turn that on should they need water. But once we get the fountain filled and running, we should not have to add too much water to it except for evaporation. And then what we would do in the winter is drain it because we don't want it to crack and freeze or whatever.
Pump also.
Yeah, and take the pump down. So for $2,198 plus $640 is what we are asking Budget and Finance to approve to move forward to the town council so that we can have this park picture perfect before October 1st.
So is this just for the first quarter? Or is this
Well, this $2,000 is for them to come in, clean it up,
just one time?
just one time. Now, on the larger one that I gave you, on the second page, there are some cost breakdowns. Should you go into a landscape maintenance contract with them? And these were based off of the numbers on the first page. But if you see the total per month, $905 for the first year, that's because that's taking into account the work for the fountain in the stone wall.
I'm sorry, where's the 905?
On your contract, this is $10,000.
905 per month for the first year.
Yeah, but that's because that would include the additional fountain work to get us up and
So they're
running.
prorating the amount across the year.
Yes, and the wall that we probably will not build. Because the wall is $2,650.
What was the wall for? Just
So you know the one garden in the front where there's
Yeah.
a little tiny statue?
Yes.
and they have seasonal flowers there, there's some stones there, everything keeps washing out into the sidewalk. So they thought if we could build up a little wall, it would help hold that back.
Mhm.
I say we just put some more stones in there and not build up a wall for $2,600.
And I'm sorry, the genesis of this is the same, that the Women's Club used to perform this and it was covered. So this is an entirely new cost that the town is incurring, correct?
Pretty much.
And what we're doing is we're not having our own maintenance person doing this, because he's maxed already. You can throw it on him, but he's gonna have to cut something else out in town.
Well, ideally, I think we would like to see maybe this modeled at the other parks where everything is edged the way it is, but the Women's Club has always held this as their project. And
Right.
everybody would say, don't touch that park, it's the Women's Club park.
Okay.
And so they kind of fizzled out.
And as far as the fountain goes, other than if the pump fails or the rest, doesn't sound like water would be a significant ongoing cost. So it's not expected there would be any cost. This is beyond the fix up.
I don't foresee any, no. And then that second number there on that second page, total cost per month at $630.83. Well, that would be a 12-month spread. And that's if you take the fountain and the wall out of this original $10,000
Oh, I see.
ticket. Yeah. So basically, I would take this $10,000 proposal and put it in the trash, except for the fountain piece. I'd like to bring the fountain piece over to getting this park pristine, and then we'll talk about maintenance next year. Maybe
Okay.
Larry can pick it up next year because it will be, in good shape.
So we're only talking about this more basic version plus the fountain fix up. And if the fountain should not, barring something happening with the pump, et cetera, will not incur significant additional costs.
Correct.
Okay. Well, let me make a motion. I move that we, before I do that, so we've gotten bids from really two other outfits, but that was for a bid for,
Well, I got the bid from Cornerstone.
yeah,
Through the garden, never showed up. And R&L said, no, we can't, we're too busy.
let me ask that, what's your thoughts? Because now we've changed the bid. Now it's this bid, and these other two outfits don't get a shot at it. So we may have to,
Well, they would have come in and gave me the same thing. I would, and then I said, no, we gotta cut this. What else, what can you do? Just forget the wish list that they were all gonna get.
yeah,
Forget the wish list. Give me bare bones to get this park looking great.
So when Cornerstone came in, were those the directions they were given to do the bid?
The
Or,
first bid, yeah, we gave them the wish list and said, this is what we would like. And so you can see all this.
including the phone.
and is that the same with the other contractors as well? Were they given the whole wish list?
Yeah,
I guess it was, it appears to be legitimate.
Oh, they like you to have three. Some of the stuff that I'm reading doesn't necessarily support that if there's no response, it counts as a bid, although we have done that in the past. The other two technically didn't do it the same as the third one, as the second iteration, it sounds to me. What about Meadows? You tried Meadows at all?
they wouldn't do it. I did call them. And the others didn't have the opportunity for the second chance to bid on it. They only got the first to go around, then they never showed it.
Trust me, it is difficult to get any contractors right now, any.
But Meadow said they don't do this kind of thing. So
Yeah,
I did call them as well.
And that's part of the thing, is trying to get someone to come and do the work, and I can't get them to do it, I don't know. So,
This will get the park up to speed. The fall is our big season. I see a bit of urgency to it. What's the point of doing it in October? it's like too late.
And is it all, I don't recall the number in front of me, but is it all together with this, fountain?
Yeah,
under
the fountain.
$2,500?
It would be, it's gonna, I would say be close to 3,000.
2798. Yeah, and for certain, no bid does not count as bid. So I'm hesitant and
But on the
say,
other hand, if you can't get a vendor, you can't get a
yeah,
vendor.
so I'm saying I'm hesitant, but that we're not talking about signing up for a multi-year contract. It's a one-time thing, that was to get the bids. I'd say it would have been better if everyone was bidding the same thing. And I don't know if that was part of it, if they looked at the whole list and said, we want to deal with this. I don't know if it could be worth going back to them to say, hey, it's just this component, well, you did, if there's no bid at that
Well-
point, there's no reasonable party to say.
Well, Meadows Farm says no.
Yeah.
Through the garden, they understand is going through some business decisions and how much they're going to branch out. And I think Harpers Ferry is just a very small part through the garden.
Yeah.
And RNL is just, forget
And
it.
if people didn't respond, there.
Yeah. Yeah, we need this done. think
And I
that-
don't think there's any other vendors that we're missing in the area, they're obvious.
I've been trying to get contractors in my yard since December, anyway.
CB's held at 28.
Oh, thank you.
So I move that we, I'm gonna make the motion, I move that we recommend to town council that we accept the bid from Cornerstone for the landscape cleanup, weeding, bed maintenance, fall annual flower installation, and fountain, we call that fountain
Restoration.
restoration.
For the amount of
From account number.
to 906.
Maintenance, that's a
I
maintenance.
would say there's parks and that would fall in there.
Second discussion. Okay,
So we currently have in the budget for fiscal 22, $84,500.96. You have committed already through previous requests, $35,365 for this fiscal year. With the previous request, that was for how much, 25?
2,800.
No, the first one we just did 1,500, and then this one, so just want you to be aware of how much of that you're whittling down. Okay.
All right. We have to vote. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. All right, move it on to the council, let them get more into it. Okay, number 4 is discussion action necessary for updating our town hall door locks. And I guess, Franny, you've been working on that.
Yeah, the keypads are sticking.
Can I ask you to take off your mask?
Yeah. I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, that would help me.
Okay. So the keypads are sticking and they're unreliable. And the police department, they have just the keypad down below and hardship and then the key in the door. So I called Charlestown Lock and Key, and it took months because of COVID to get any response from them. And they're usually the player in town, not too many locksmiths around. She finally got back to me and said, due to COVID, these particular locks have been out of stock, hard to find. And we were asking for a commercial grade because they're in the elements. And she came back with the installation of one lock was $758 or $858. And I choked. And I said, thank you very much. We're gonna put this on hold because for now we'll just use the keys. And I was talking to the mayor, and he introduced me to Harpers Ferry Lock and Key, a new company, relatively new, young man that started this business. And he came out And he gave us a bid to, initially, we wanted to change out 2. One at the front door and one at the police station. But while he was up here, I said, well, give me a bid for those 2, plus putting a keypad on this front door out here, so when the water guys come in, we don't have to get up and unlock the door, they can punch in the code. And I said, and for this door, so that all you guys don't have to carry keys, and you can just punch in the code. So give me a price for 4. So his price for 4 was $496 versus the one I got from Charlestown Lock and Key. So I also asked him to figure out what it would cost to master key some of these interior doors, because as you may be aware, Debbie and me, Angie the mayor, we carry about, 10 keys to get in and out of there. So that's what the rest of these numbers are, because he would rekey a couple of them the same, put a master key on a few that only a few people would have the master, but town council could get in here and in there. But planning commission could not get in there. So that's what the additional keys are. And that total was $843.76 for all of that work. I asked them to send me a picture of the push button locks, and this is what they look like. Very similar to what we have. Our current ones have a little slide that kind of protects the numbers, but he said these are exterior, they're not just residential, they're a higher grade. And they also will have a key, so if they don't work, we can bypass it with a key, like we have now. So I'm just bringing that to the town to see if that's what they'd like to do, to rekey all the doors and to change those locks.
I can say when I was on town council prior to this term, we had the punch pad, at least in the beginning, and it was definitely convenient. These are a pain, and then they stopped working.
This one stopped working, so we took it off completely and put the deadbolts in. But you need 2 keys to get into that door, the deadbolt and then the lower one. The front door, we still have 2, the keypad and a lock. But it was nice having that keypad for the commissions and the committees, because we didn't, they could get into this room.
Okay, Chris.
So the push button combination would be all we'd need unless there was some kind of issue. And then the key would override.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and these
Because
also,
when we did have to use a key as well as
because
that.
you use it on the bottom lock. But what we would do for a meeting, when we would lock up at night, we just wouldn't lock the bottom lock. We just have you enter with the push, not buttons, but then when you left, we asked that you secure the bottom lock, because you just turned it when you walked out. So that's why people didn't have to have keys to the back door. These also run on batteries, like these current ones do as well. These run on a 9-volt though, but not the little,
I use these in my B&B with guests, and they work.
I guess 2 questions for the sake of being thorough. So is the keypad reprogrammable?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
And then I think the answer is obviously yes, that you feel it's secure enough, given the number of people that would have access to the code, that you're comfortable with it as a means of access.
yes,
Or-
yeah. Are you two?
Yeah, I
Debbie?
mean, the people who are gonna have access to the code are the same people who have keys
Yeah.
right now, so.
Yeah, and it worked really well. I remember on the town council level, it worked well for us. I was really bummed when we went to the keys. We got 3 keys. I have 3 keys.
Well, it does
It's like-
introduce an extra layer, just in that, unlike the key, a code can be shared with another, but if you're comfortable that that's not going to be a problem.
Well, I think that we had, we had established that the chair of the committees were responsible for the code, and that it wasn't to be shared. I can't remember how that
I
worked.
believe it
but we-
wasn't to be shared unless somebody couldn't attend a meeting, then they could give it to the secretary or the vice chair. But the whole committee did not have the key, the combination.
And is this a written policy somewhere?
It is, and we
Yeah.
actually created a log key book, and we made everybody, that's why y'all haven't gotten keys yet, because I was kind of trying to figure out what we could do instead of giving you like 6 different keys. but they're all coded and we keep a log and we've got when they've been signed out, when we retrieved keys. And if there's a problem where we haven't, when we initially just had that passcode key out there, we just changed combination and it wasn't an issue. So that was easy.
All right. Thank you.
And these aren't with your phone or anything, these are pretty basic, you just gotta know the numbers. I mean,
Oh, yeah, that's where mine was sort of going, instead of systems where there can actually be a trail to see who
Right.
accessed it and the rest, but that.
No, it's not
that's
that.
just.
We could probably get that for another $100.
Oh, really? $100. I probably don't more than that.
But I think we still have an issue with bidding on this,
Well, it sounds like there was a second bid.
be nice if we had three. So the first bid was.
For one lock,
One
it was
lock.
more than what this is, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's also under, Deb, is it correct, this is under the threshold?
Well, it's, if you're between $500 and $2,500, there's technically supposed to be 3 normal bids if possible. They encourage competition. It's not, set in stone, but it's encouraged.
And I don't think we have another locksmith in the area. We could call somebody in Frederick, Hagerstown, then you're gonna start paying for travel.
It sounds like with these two, competition works, that it went from being 800 to one lock.
This is a new company, and when the young man came in, I just looked at him and I said, I shouldn't say this, but you just look so young. And he says, I'm 23. And I was like, he's out of school and he, created this business and he's got a very good recommendations. He did work for the Camp Hill Methodist Church and came in again a lot less than Charlestown Lock and Key. And I think everyone is just so used to calling Charlestown Lock and Key because they were the only game in town.
No. I'm good with that. I mean, we do need to proceed on this. This is another one of these urgent things.
I think so.
I think maybe we put a note in the file that there are only 2 local locksmiths, and just indicate that that's it.
All right, that's a
Yeah.
motion.
Okay. You want to do it?
Write down the motion.
Oh, you want to write down the motion? Okay.
It was terrible minutes.
So am I. Where are we?
440 City Hall,
Item 4.
building, maintenance and repairs to building.
And actually, this is good timing because typically when you have a transition with your councils, things would be rekeyed.
Mhm.
Although we did get keys back from everybody, again, we're carrying around like 10 keys to get in here, so.
So I move to recommend to the town council that we approve the bid from Harpers Ferry Locksmith. I don't have it in front of me.
Harpers Ferry Lock and Key.
Harpers Ferry Lock and Key for no more than $900 for upgrading our locks in town hall from account number 440, building maintenance of the building. Did I say that wrong?
Maintenance and repairs.
Maintenance and repair. Maintenance and repair. Okay,
I second it.
discussion? None? All those in favor? Aye. What was the amount? I said. I forgot.
I don't have it down.
You got it then. I don't need all those. You can send them later so I can make sure they get on the agenda.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, and I know all the employees in the police officer bill, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, this one is a discussion and action. This is a big one. We're coming up some of the big ones now. We just get practicing here early. Okay, so discussion and action is necessary for the fiscal year 2022 budget options for the federal match funding for the construction of the Armory Canal Trail. And so Chris, I'll let you talk to this. You're our expert.
This project has been in the works for some time. The Armory Canal Trail is along Potomac Street extended, basically beyond the train station towards Bakerton Road, although our town part takes us just to the town boundary at the, basically at the dam. And it is a multi-purpose trail. West Virginia has made this trail as the entranceway for US Bike Route 11. It's also a wonderful connection for bicyclists, particularly, and hikers to some extent, to additional trails and county roads, connections, Shepherdstown, and some of the trails at Schoolhouse Ridge and so forth. And it was part of the regional bike plan for Hagerstown Metropolitan, Hagerstown Eastern Panhandle Metropolitan Planning Program. And so they did the grant several years ago, and they paired Harpers Ferry's part with bike trails at Ranson. The goal is to hook up the Route 9 bike trail to Harpers Ferry. And so there would be Ranson, Harpers Ferry, and then to be completed later would be a county connection, which is likely to be on road and Son. So that's what was sent by the planning agency to the federal government, and we received, the two towns together received this grant, federal land access program grant for just under $850,000. And the nice thing about a flat grant is that the match is 20% instead of 50%. So taking into account the Harpers Ferry share of it, which is a little above $500,000, our match would be $116,292.63. There are few, basically there's no other startup costs that the town would be under. Eventually we would be, it would be our expense to maintain the trail and to control usage, so police and so forth.
Whose land is it? The trail? Who owns the land?
Say it again.
Who owns the land that the trail is on?
Yeah, like everything in Lower Town, it's a bit complicated. But the town owns the street. The national park owns the adjacent land and controls all of the archaeology and all of that around it. And so it's right along the Armory Canal, historic structure for the town. On the other side is CSX. And I've been told by Andrew Lee that, some of the specifics of the borders are a little in question. However, this was a town road that was used up until probably 15 years ago by automobiles. The plan, by the way, that the state has come up with Division of Highways. Would also include emergency vehicle access to Harpers Ferry. So that,
That's really good, I like that.
so that if there were, some major blocking
I like
on
that.
US
Yes,
40, that people could come off of it.
that's very important.
So,
Is this under Department of Highways?
yes, Division of Highways. And so they'd be doing all the work. They have a contractor lined up. Now, the situation with the match, this was presented to the mayor, the prior mayor, last year, but no request was made. And
He didn't know, he knew about the trail, but he didn't know about the money part. I never heard, honestly.
well, he did bring it up at a meeting that there was a town match required,
But I didn't
but
hear
no,
about your
nothing
finance.
there was no follow-up on that.
Okay, but that's
So-
kind of new.
This kind of, I've been following the Armory Canal Trail for a long time. It was tied up by the state for a long time. So I made inquiries as soon as I was, actually before I was elected, because I wanted to know what was going on with it. And they are anxious, the Division of Highways is anxious to get going on this. I said, well, do we have a deadline on when we can come up with the match? And basically was told ASAP because Branson is already ready to roll. Okay. And, I wasn't given any expiration date or anything like that. I have been told that it has to be money, it cannot be in-kind donations.
Saw your letter, your email, it's a whole list, it can't be this, can't be that.
Cash or check. And
Money talks.
it has to be basically all at once. So, but beyond that, there's quite a bit of flexibility. I asked specifically about rescue funds and I had the feeling that they didn't want to make a firm commitment, but the sense I got was that that would be a possibility that other towns are using those rescue funds for federal matches.
But that's, you said something about federal money couldn't be used for a
That's
federal.
what he's saying, that they're talking about an exception.
Oh, an
to this.
exception.
Yes, because
Okay,
because this is grant money that is specifically for infrastructure is why it's an exception.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it on the infrastructure bill or the American Relief Act, Plan Act?
Could be either, like,
Okay,
nobody really knows how it works yet.
okay.
So there's some possibility of that. I asked them, is there any restriction on us getting a loan? And no, they basically don't care about that. No restrictions there. It can be private money if we could find a donor. So I have been in touch with Rails to Trails Conservancy and Kelly Pack there, who I had previously met with my work on Trail in Town years ago. She's been very helpful. She basically said there's no big pot of private money out there to provide loans or grants on this kind of thing. She did recommend that if we can't come up with the money ourselves, that going to our state representatives, or legislators would be wise. And she expressed some frustration that it is so difficult for little towns in West Virginia to come up with matching funds to get continuously these federal grants.
Well, it sounds like it's a wonderful program. And today, we're not approving that here. We're trying to come up with options for the town council. So don't think, we got approved it, it's not our authority. That's not the agenda item.
It's my understanding, and it can chime in here, that hotel motel monies would be acceptable because this would qualify, if we say it is, as a park, as a historical preservation project, and economic development, all of that. So I think we can be creative on what pots we draw from, but it is a big chunk of change.
Yeah, I feel like it's a really incredible opportunity, and I think that it's something that if we can find a way to make it work in the short term, that the gap could be covered later. I think there's a strong case to be made to the state and the county that this benefits not just Harpers Ferry, you can say it benefits other jurisdictions even more, providing that access, provides additional safety. I don't know, Chris, you know this project the best, but also, do you know how they would handle the rail crossing? I think I saw some version where it would take it down to the point.
CSX, we have a letter from CSX allowing the at-grade crossing. Originally, CSX had been pushing for above or below ground, and that would have increased the cost phenomenally. And but they backed off of that and gave us permission, so that permission has been granted.
Okay, so CSX's disposition, they're basically okay.
And basically, that crossing is open now to pedestrians and bikers.
Right.
Signage is up, and that is allowed.
But a further benefit would be the emergency access, which currently doesn't exist. It's a lot to do.
Yeah, well, the park gets through there, so I'm imagining that presently there is some emergency access through the park.
And you mentioned you've had discussions with Andrew Lee with the park. Does the park have a position, an official position, or do you just have a sense?
I don't think they have an official position. They've been involved in this from the beginning. Steve Lowe was my go-to person originally. He's retired now. I've walked the trail with the superintendent, and he's excited about it. But I don't think they've taken up a formal position. There's a lot of concerns about, especially from the park archaeologists about all that. And it's going to, that's part of the big expense. It's going to have to go through the NEPA review and all of that.
And then practically, before we discuss what options there could be, we would be taking on an ongoing maintenance obligation, both for maintenance and control usage. Is there any information about what that will be on an ongoing basis?
No, I don't think there's any budget developed or anything, that would be up to us. I think there would be some tree cutting involved.
No snow removal.
No snow removal.
Good.
And I think the biggest issues with this route is there's some major erosion where the culverts come through below CSX.
Yeah.
And that will be addressed in the engineering.
So that would be an ongoing maintenance thing. Once it's set, you control the erosion.
And it should take care of that, barring some kind of major like might happen tomorrow.
Right.
But yeah. So I think the ongoing cost would be minimal, and we could also, Trail in Town has been involved in this a long time, and I think it would be a project also that where volunteers could hook up. They already have been. We've been down there getting rid of graffiti, picking up litter. So.
And I know the park has someone who routinely, to this point, patrols the length of the Armory Canal Trail, such as it is now.
Yeah, not much, but yeah, they are involved too.
Okay. no, I feel like it's an exciting possibility, and certainly if it would link the Route 9 trail, it can become something that becomes marketable for the town as well as for the county.
Well, I think we have to go back to just coming up with some ideas. I'd like this, I really think this is really a large number for us.
Yeah.
Especially with no, it wasn't in our budget, right? You know,
Yeah, it's not in our budget. No matter what we do, it's gonna require a budget revision.
huge one.
So I guess that's what I say is I would look to you for what ideas you're looking at in terms of if you want to pursue it in a budget revision, you know, how do you want to go about looking at that and other, your thoughts?
Well, my first thought was hotel, motel, I'm not yet familiar enough with the numbers to know where that is, what its trajectory is. Obviously, that's going to change now.
So look, the big thing to me too is I'd like to see the state, I wish the state were involved in this. We got the federal government in here. This is like more than Harpers Ferry. This is, like you mentioned, it's others are gonna be using this. And I'm
Well,
not saying for them to pay the whole thing, but some sort of match from the state.
yeah, I mean, the state is involved. They will be carrying out the project, basically.
They're doing the project,
Yeah, and they.
but it's
Yeah,
federal
the
money.
contractor they've arranged all of that.
Is it federal money?
It is federal money, but the state's providing the staff time.
Oh, so they're
So-
participating.
In the MOU, the town's responsibility is basically to approve and go to meetings, which I would volunteer for. So the state is involved. The county will have to be involved too, because beyond our boundary, that's a county road. And that is likely not to be a specific multi-use trail, but it's already better maintained than our share and pretty viable through the River Riders area. So,
Yeah, I guess the tricky part is we don't know how much time we have before this money disappears and we lose this opportunity. I mean, for another, $800,000 to appear, well, 500,000 for this portion. That doesn't happen a lot. So the question is there a way for us to find money to effectively borrow against money that we currently have? I don't know, taking a loan and then trying to, after the fact, find sources to cover it afterwards.
yeah, I had, in some of our talks about funds, I understand we have a pool of hotel motel money that's around 80,000, and about 35,000 of that or so is pretty much committed.
So I was just tallying that up because you just approved $4,400 to spend out more.
So that is 9 to 6.
So we're down to
Oh,
46.
okay.
I'm sorry, how much?
So now you're down to 46.
Yeah.
That's left. And that, and let me just explain that is a very, that's a, don't be deceived by that number. That number is as high as it is because of back years where it wasn't all spent, and also particularly last year, we spent almost nothing. And so what's happened is that fund has been building up. Our typical revenue in and out on that is we usually have been over previous years been getting about 55,000 in on the tax. So half of that 22.5 is what we count as spendable in hotel motel. My prediction is so that number is going to lower over time because we're getting more Airbnb lodging type places rather than bed and breakfast. Bed and breakfast will pull in a higher turn on the tax because you'll be generating more dollars every night rather than on Airbnb type lodging. And so I see that number dropping over time.
Shouldn't it be rising if we're gonna have a hotel?
Well,
But it's still
Yes.
3 years away.
Yeah. I mean, in the long.
Yeah.
in the long term, I mean,
Not next year.
right, I mean, I feel like, I guess my thought is that the need for this is relatively imminent. I mean, you're absolutely right in that timing, learning what that is a key component because, the other piece that could just solve the problem is any money that we might get through the county on the Armory. And there's a lot of pieces that we have irons in the fire on that would be helpful to know about that, but we don't know. I just found out that they're just beginning to schedule a meeting to talk about that now at the county commission level. So, we're not, the knowledge of that is not in it.
Right.
And so, I mean, it becomes very complicated, and you're right, the linchpin is timing.
And again, Kelly Pack thought that our legislators should be helping on that.
Well, yeah, maybe able to buy us more time, in addition to funding perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think that if we have to, that taking a big chunk of the hotel motel tax and borrowing the remainder is worth it in order to get.
Well, for this year right now, based on what you've got committed and what you just are recommended for spending, you have 46,000 left, period.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah, we're a mile away, and we still have High Street
and that,
project.
And review again the disposition of the street sale funds, why those are.
so the street sale funds are being held in escrow because of the contingency clause that has to do with any legal action being taken against the tourism development district. And until such time as that is, I don't know who's gonna make the a determination, but until such time as that is not perceived as an action that will be taken, that money must be held in escrow.
Okay, and that was determined by the CPA firm.
That
No,
was
it's done by the
determined, it
town
was
council.
held in, well, it was held in the agreement to be held in escrow.
Right.
It was determined to be a liability on our balance sheet by the CPA firm so that we don't believe that we have it as spendable backup,
Got it.
because it could all disappear. If something happened with
The
that
hotel has,
CD,
the hotel has to open, basically, before we can get the money.
or at least,
Or
according to
the
the agreement,
says-
the way I read it, the front of any legal action on the CD
Well,
has to
that-
go away.
That
And
has-
so if you're saying that that is the hotel
Well,
was open, well, then fine,
We don't know.
and
We don't know. the
know.
conditions.
But you're right, if there's enough there that you can take it out of that, but timing, again, we
It's-
don't know.
We
don't know.
could grab the money and sit in the bank, but then we've got a huge liability.
No, we
Right.
cannot
Well,
take that
If
money.
it's an escrow.
It is an escrow, we cannot take that money.
It's legally out.
So it would basically be a bank loan or a loan from some private source or grant money.
Well,
It's the same thing for the other next item we're gonna go over.
mhm,
It's the same
right,
thing. These big dollar things are just small things.
on the other hand, if that money coming from the ARPA COVID stuff, infrastructure, whatever you want to call it, were viable for either one of these or both of them, it's a big problem answer. So if there's time, if we're able to find out from the state timing or granting for more time due to the unknown of that which is coming down the pipeline, at the same time asking the state and our representatives for support financially as well as timing, maybe there's some leeway that we can get or find a path forward.
Yeah, I feel like if we can get some commitments from those, like, I wouldn't be comfortable doing a loan at this point. Like, even if we took some of the funds from 906, it's still a huge gap. There does not appear to be any other cash sources we can take. And right now it's speculation that we'll be able to get the funding back. It's not a revenue generating project. And I think that we might revisit it if they come back and say last fall, that then we can do another discussion about it. But I think it is the best chance we're going to have is to get the public funding either from ARPA or appeals to the state. and to try to sell them on the fact that this is gonna benefit the town.
I really, in the back of my mind, I've been feeling that we need to, I know we wrote our letter already to the county about their funds, and we gave them our list. What do we want, 6 million, 7 million, that plus, but I think here we have a project, we have 2 projects, and they have matching monies. We're gonna lose them if we don't get this, and we need some help, we need help, we're too small to take on these big projects. We just are, and that's why I think we're gonna have to really push on the legislative side, both federally and on the state level.
Yeah, I will say I would want to revisit this if they tell us time's up. And it doesn't sound like they've told us that at this point. But right now, it's as soon as possible.
No.
And we have a credible reason to say we need a little more time. It's not like we're saying, let's figure it out, since we have specific things that we can point to.
Well, it was never even in our
That
budget,
it
Chris.
wasn't, it was presented in an MOU, last year at some point.
I know,
And
it was never,
nothing was done.
that's right,
So,
whatever reason, all
yeah, well, I agree, we need to start with county commissioners and probably Rucker, Unger, and
How about-
Doyle.
I was thinking of a really good, we're gonna go through these 2, I think we really put together a really tight letter, exactly what the issue is, here's matching funds, we need exactly this much.
It unlocks $500,000.
Right, I mean, that is definitely, that'd be crazy to let that go. And
Well, and you can sell it in a way that it continues to support the gateway.
yeah, and I'll even write to that.
Just tying it not only with those specifics, but that just selling it as that it supports the gateway of tourism into the state, all of that.
It becomes marketable for the whole state. Whenever you go to the state side, county side, what do you see?
More of that, right?
I mean, I just don't, I don't always cry poor, but what are we, 116,292 divided by how many residents we have? I'll say 270. That's 400, no, it's not too bad, 431 per person. Per person.
Twice that per household, and minimum if it's 2 people in a household.
Well, that's part of what our case is to both the county and the state.
Right.
In fact, we're 300 people, but when they allocated ARPA, they did it by population, even though we serve 300,000 or more people.
Correct.
And that's a really good point, because I didn't want to bring this up before, but if you think about, I understand the physical differences between what we are dealing with in this project and Ransom is dealing with in this project, but the population, the tax base that Ransom has to contribute to, I'm gonna guess, 50-60% of the money in the cash out, I just did it roughly. Ours, as you said, we're 500,000 of the total 800,000. If you proportion that over the 116, you're at about 67. So they have to come up with 60,000 over their mammoth tax base, and we have to come up with 16,000 over
Yeah,
270
that's a very,
people.
very strong case. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we're never we need help.
Well, and the other reason the state should be helping on this, in the original draft, the state said that state toll credits
That's right.
would be providing the match.
That's right. That was the big.
Yeah,
And
good one. All right.
What was it?
in the
Yeah, I
original
saw that.
draft,
Yeah.
it said the toll credits from the state would cover the match.
And
And
now that's changed.
when I asked about that, I didn't get a clear explanation, why did that disappear? We thought originally that, maybe in the pandemic, they just didn't get any toll money. But it doesn't sound like that was it.
Well, you know what, it's another good question, but in your letter, I asked, is there any chance of that being revisited, at least for a portion?
And that was why, that was what Kelly Pack also kind of jumped at. Maybe you should get your legislators working on that, because this is happening, she said, again and again, that towns in West Virginia and counties are missing out on federal money because they can't come up with matching funds.
We will 3 years from now. We have this hotel and a lot of stuff's gonna be a lot easier, but right now, we got this.
After Bridget, missed opportunities here now, so we need.
And we gotta get this place ready for 3 years from now. We need to make this place more.
We're constantly being faced with these, with that timing disparity of if we,
Yeah, well, as we go on in our discussion about High Street, maybe let's look at these two together and then come up with,
Well, I think High Street is definitely, there's gonna be increased revenue to our businesses. The trail is more indirect.
Well, it is indirect, but I think it could be a real effect. If you look at so many towns with rails to trails, the way you can market them, you have that hero shot somewhere along the trail with that spot that people feel compelled to come there. And, I've walked the Armory Canal Trail even as it is, and it's beautiful, and I can see the area where the old rail line comes in, the Armory Canal Trail, the old bridge abutments and.
just historically, it's a treasure, the old Armory Canal that fed the factories down there. before the
Wow,
Civil War.
okay, we need it all.
the other thing I wanna say about that is that if you look at it just from a walking or bike riding perspective, as a person who has had people and had to find guests who come to our town to do activities, people cannot stand taking their bikes across that bridge and go down to the other side, but they love to come and take a nice little bike ride. And that would just be fabulous for that, low impact, it's closer, it's easier, also for walking. It just provides us with another, also you certainly may be able to do a better job of promoting a bike rental business downtown, which
Oh,
they've
yes.
always struggled with. I mean, it's always been there, but it's been a bit of a struggle. That just speeds the economic development impact.
Yeah.
Another pitch for the county is the fact that when it is a formal trail, it's like
Right.
with Route 9, there would be an incentive for businesses along
Yep.
that route to either serve cyclists or to have an Airbnb there, because, well, you can stay here and bike all the way into downtown Harpers Ferry, you don't have to park, you don't have to deal with that on a very nice, well-maintained trail.
Yeah.
Well, as a B&B owner, and Deb is as well, I'm sure she's seen it. People are transitioning. It is much more outdoor activities. That's what they want. They want the hiking, they want the river. It's not the history as much. It's more the.
And other than Virginia Asylum, this will be the only flat
Yeah,
Right, right.
trail, and Virginia's Island is not open to bicycles.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty unique and a great opportunity in town, and it is just a treasure. I walk down there, you leave this, on a weekend, you leave this bustle and madhouse of Potomac Street, and you walk into those woods, and it's like you've been there.
and I see it all the time, that, a view of Potomac Street, and that you see people walk to the end of Potomac Street, they don't know that there's a trail there, and they just turn around and go. And it'll become a jewel to the town, just something that will be an attraction.
Right.
So let's try and get the county and the state folks.
I think we need an action. I think what we need is a specific letter to the county and to, and we do have an excellent opportunity coming up too. Both our senators of West Virginia, Capito and Manchin are coming here for the grand opening of the visitor center in October.
I'll be talking to John Doyle tomorrow on a totally unrelated thing, but I'll try and in his ear about this.
But I'd like to get a really tight argument, really tight, dollars and cents from Budget and Finance Committee.
I would love to help draft that.
Okay, let's
Maybe
do
you
that.
can take it then to council or take the draft to council.
I mean, I don't want this thing turning into encyclopedia.
No,
here. It's gotta be tight, one page.
Well,
This
I'll write
is-
a draft. do we want the draft presented at the next council
Yes.
meeting? Or?
Yeah, I would say we want to have this, that's all the action I believe we can do. I pull the money from our budget,
Okay,
that kind of money is gonna be.
Yeah, I was hopeful that there'd be some way to do that, but
Okay.
it's clear if there's not.
do we need a motion for a draft letter or?
I guess we would just put it on the town council's agenda, as part of budget and finance, to present discussion and action
Yeah, we should do a motion.
forward. Okay,
Okay,
I move that we write a letter recommending funding, approval by the town council for.
we started.
I move that we recommend the town council that a letter from the Budget and Finance Committee addressing funding, federal matching funding for the Armory Canal Trail Project.
can I either,
Yeah,
Wanna
we
add
seconded it, so we can do anything.
can we put in to our state and county?
Yes, and to our state, yes, to our state, good, and state and county and federal.
Let's withdraw and redraft.
Withdraw.
and practice first.
Okay,
I move that we recommend, or not recommend, I move that we present to town council a letter supporting the Armory Canal Trail Project funding from the county, the state, and the federal government.
that's second.
Discussion?
And I volunteer to write it,
Okay.
the draft.
Okay.
And then you can pass.
Well, yeah, and all those in favor? Alright. I think this is an excellent first step.
Yeah, I think it's our best
Our
shot.
best shot. And it's not, this isn't the pie in sky letter like we did before. This is actually, we don't get this money, we're gonna lose this.
Mhm. It's gonna be great, not just for Harpers Ferry, but for the county and for the state.
Correct.
Okay.
Here we go. Next one is very good. So next one is suggestion action if necessary for the fiscal year 2022 budget options for the West Virginia state match funding for the High Street Sidewalk project. And this is not that we are gonna come up with which option or any of that. I'm working on some ideas for that, but we just gotta give the council some ideas of what to do, where we can get $80,000. That's what we need. Duplicate my motion. It's basically, we really gotta do pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But this time, we just have to.
Yeah.
I mean, both of these never were presented to the budget and finance in the last couple of
Right.
years. And these numbers were kind of hanging out there, but they were never.
Oh, no, when I walk around, I talk with business in Lower Town, we talk to people around town, hardly anyone is even aware of it.
I mean, the only trick about that is that the auctions are, all of them have issues, and so, you know, I guess sometimes, I don't know how aggressive it doesn't really matter, but I mean, they all have things, it seems to me, so. You know, is there a possibility that we would walk away from it? I guess that's the question.
Well, I feel there's an option 4 that is different from what they presented, that would achieve the objectives, that would require more funding and would be the focus of our.
Okay, fine.
So,
Well, I don't understand the financial part of it.
Greg,
What are the figures?
the Mayor Bond had sent an email to us. He said that the state had already approved 300, I think it was 320,000. That was,
I didn't get that anymore.
we had to do was come up with 80, and 80 appears to be the same dollar amount for the study that was done by this engineering firm. So it appears that we were paying
Engineering.
for the engineering plan on those options, 1, 2, 3.
They're gonna offer another option.
So we need to come up with 80,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this one is another one where we lose it. But it was 320,000. It was from the mayor's letter. It was in the body of it. I never saw it in anywhere else except there. Or maybe it's from the lady from the state.
Well, yeah, it's definitely the same story where we are going to need more support to do this in a way that will achieve the state and the town's objectives for it.
And this one benefits the federal government. I mean, this is the park. I mean, this enhances the visitors' experience by us fixing this this sidewalk, which is terrible.
Mhm.
And we knew about it when COVID was going on.
Oh, yeah.
It was terrible.
No, it's a safety issue and a tragedy.
And also, we always have to also look ahead to the future. We're talking decades. Whatever fix we do has to be there for the next 20 years. That's how I look at it. Maybe
Yeah.
longer.
No, that's how I feel about the options that presented, none of them appear to issue.
Yeah.
But involving the federal level with regard to attractiveness towards the national park, I think is also very important because some of those options and solving them don't seem viable without involving the national park.
Absolutely.
And so by pulling that in helps you with that
Yeah.
factor.
So if you want, we could do the same motion and just from the prior thing. And
Well, yeah, it may be that it's requesting additional support.
okay, we can request additional. But the way that letter is, that we can do, but we don't need it for the motion. The motion would just be writing another letter. And actually, I see both of these going together.
Yeah, well, I think I feel very comfortable providing the background and the arguments for the trail. I feel less capable of doing that for High Street. So maybe maybe I could start the draft and one of
Yeah, I think either one of us can write on that. We two are very well versed on the High Street.
Yeah.
And so this is also from the county, state, and federal, we're seeking support from the county, state, and federal. Okay,
But I would specifically move in NPS on that.
I'm correcting that. I'm gonna start with that motion.
And I think the letter is what we can do officially, but beyond that, it's going to take sitting down with Patricia Rucker and Stephen Stollifer and John Unger. You know, it's really going to need some personal lobbying.
Well, we don't have a whole lot of time. Remember, we were supposed to give them an answer back in April. And I can tell you that the prior town councils just didn't have the energy to get into it.
And having the entire council submitting this letter will act as the lightning rod focus for those discussions and set the tone and show the critical way. Okay, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we present to town council a letter in which the town council will request additional support for the High Street Improvement Project from the county, state, and federal governments, including the National Park Service.
I second it. Discussion? All those in favor? Okay, passes. These are good things. Wish we had a pot of money that we could just say, hey, let's write, instruct this check 80K. Wish.
Just try and take care of these 300,000 to 500,000 people coming to Harpers Ferry.
All right, let's talk about this next one. This is a discussion and action if necessary regarding supplemental funding of the Harpers Ferry Town Parks maintenance and upkeep from line 906 Art Humanities Preservation. Yes.
So basically this was the request of the mayor to look into verify and assess the possibility of utilizing these funds if there was a need to sort of reimburse the general fund for maintenance, ongoing maintenance of our parks, be that. So that would be not only what we've talked about and we've approved before in the meeting, but when Larry goes and mows the lawn at a park, you know, should the examine the possibility of having that 906 money reimbursed the general fund. And there is support for that within the article that I read earlier about the motel, the room occupancy tax, Article 753.01B for the construction of or maintenance of public parks, tourist information centers, and recreational facilities. But in some follow-up conversation with him, we talked about the fact that while there certainly is basis for it if there was a need in our budget, but I don't see the need. I feel like we're funded properly enough within the street department employee wages and hours to allow him to do that work and have it funded from that department. So this now becomes more of an awareness thing, that we know that option is available to us if we need it, but that it doesn't really feel like there's a need unless anyone has another thought.
No, I'm a little leery of it just because it's a separate budget line for a reason, and especially as we move forward, and these projects are a good example, that it's important for us to have those funds so when we need to keep a park going, when we have an exciting project we want to do, and especially if and when the dollars are larger, that means in order to keep things great for our town residents as well as the visitors, having that money to be able to do that.
And then that's where the businesses are contributing obviously to that, and they want to see something that generates business in the town, like the events we do in the town. Old Time Christmas particularly comes to my mind.
Or even tangible things that are like, oh, okay, you see that fountain over there, that one came from the Arts and Communities Fund that comes from, so it's more like that.
Yeah, they're concrete things, maintenance of the parks.
I mean, it is
It's
legally
there.
a way that we can use it, and if we had a budget concern that we didn't have the money inside the budget in that department, then that might be something, but I don't really see the need.
Yeah, and my only question is, I know Larry is stretched pretty thin, and if we need to hire a part-time employee to do some of that maintenance in the parks, is that money also
Well,
available from the general fund?
The parts that if there were to be a part-time employee, because his work not able to be done with the hours that are allotted to him, there's a couple things that can happen. First of all, changes can be made to his allotted hours. That would be one option. But secondly, then that person would still be paid through wages. There would still be a line item that had to do with wages. And so, and then that would just, we'd have to decide for budget revision if we felt like we were able to support that without pulling money from this area.
Right, and the other way to manage it is like we are right now with the park.
Contract work on specifics.
Exactly, and the benefit to that is that you don't incur ongoing costs of having additional employees. The downside being, if you can only get one bid and it ends up being a very high bid, then that can become very expensive.
Yep, okay. Next item, this one's a discussion item only. I put this on. Discussion of snow removal options on using a contractor versus the town employees and equipment. This has been going on for a long time. We use an outside contractor, and for years we were using existing contractor, what's
RNS.
RNS excavating. He did both, he did our town for years as snow removal. And in the last year, he decided to, I guess, retire, or he's no longer doing that. So that's when we got Cornerstone in. And also last year was a tough year because what we budgeted, 25,000 for snow. And we doubled it, more than doubled it.
We had a lot of, it was a big snow year.
Yeah, we had 3 major snowstorms. I remember, I can tell you, I love snow. I don't anymore than at all. After paying these bills.
Could we take a short break, please?
Sure.
I promise we should.
Sure. We don't want you to be in trouble.
Thank you. Are we?
Yeah,
Well, it's a heavy.
we did the heavy stuff. I just wish we had the money. And we're so much better than we were in the past. But, you know, we're running the town, it's running, but when we get hit with, I don't know, I guess we're off here, but when we get hit with big things, it is so hard for us to handle. You know, big dollar projects. Unless they're in the radar for a year or two in the past, you know, then we can factor them in, but just 2 big projects like this. So back to snow. So who knows? We may not get any snow this year. You know, that'd be awesome. 2 years ago, when I was on council, we barely had any snow. We didn't spend really much money at all on it. But we do have to be concerned about it. And I think we need to look at potentially us doing our own. Though it is up Charlotte. Was engaged in a study a long time ago. I was never privy really to the information. This is prior to my service in the other council. This is longer ago. And the thought is to have waterworks get engaged in this. They do now have equipment. They don't have snowplows, but they definitely have big trucks. They have people, they have, but my concern is how this is we run that, but it's for 2 towns. And I'm not, so I don't know how this is. So Devin, I want you kind of step into this with your thoughts on.
Well, it is tricky because, yeah, if we were to do this, would we be obligated to file?
We can't.
No.
We can't.
Why would we be obligated to follow?
Because who actually owns?
We do.
Oh, it's the town of Harpers Ferry.
This is kind of Harpers Ferry.
Okay.
But do know when there's a snowstorm, the waterworks employees, I've been told, don't work.
Right, so
Well,
basically.
okay, so that's a phrasing thing that needs to be clarified. I would not say that doesn't mean that we're not making water. Someone's there
It's-
probably making
yeah.
water.
It's
So some
it's in
people
the
are
tank.
working, but that perhaps depending on the conditions, then people may not necessarily be working on the streets.
Correct, they're not reading meters, they're not out there doing repairs.
Depending on the situation.
Depending on how much snow.
But that there may be capacity we could draw upon to manage the snow versus times when snow is not occurring.
We have a maintenance person, potentially even the police.
Yeah, I certainly feel like if I were a ratepayer from Bolivar, and my I saw my water money partially be going to clearing Harpers Ferry streets. I think that would be a little politically
Don't you make it
sensitive
like-
and dicey.
Yeah,
And so I think we have to look for, how we're paying for that, even if it is. through the water.
So we would be paying the waterworks.
I was thinking the same thing where if there's a snow emergency and, there are people, they're working, the town of Harpers Ferry then would be, this is not a free ride, we would be putting money in towards the waterworks.
And the other two things, one is, I think it holds true whether or not it's waterworks or whomever, or if we're contracting, having a management plan that's laid out, just so it's clear what the procedures are and also who would coordinate it, like having, in case of snow break glass, plan that's ready to go. It seems like the amount of snow it caught the town by surprise, but to have a plan so that even if you're bidding it out, the specs are clear enough that it's being
Right, and
done.
when they wasn't, Cornerstone was, to be fair to Cornerstone, I don't think they were given enough instruction.
Exactly, so
And
whether it's
so they
us or whether it's
struggled.
Cornerstone.
And they struggled mightily, and they probably spent more money because of that issue. Do know that 340 is a state road, that's the state should be clearing it, but I was trying to get the snow emergency route to get the cars cleared off.
This is a state road. Washington Street is a state road.
Yes, that's what I meant, 340, that 340, alternate, or old 340. I think of it sometimes as old 340. So that should be cleared by them, and the Park Service used to clear a bit of the streets, the access roads into their maintenance yard on Zachary Taylor. I think they did Store Place Way as well. They used to do that. They don't pull their trucks out anymore in the snow.
No, they contract with Cornerstone now.
That's true. That's right. I saw that last year. They cleared their parking lots.
And I was freaking out because I thought we were paying for that, and then I found out that that the park contracted them.
Yeah. I got a call on that
So I
too.
was involved with the committee that explored
Yeah,
the
what
option
happened?
of dealing, of possibly having our own snow removal service. And here are some things that we learned. It's not just snow. It's salt, it's cinders, it's applying all of that, storing all of that.
I've lost you.
Salt, cinders,
Okay,
those supplies. How much do you buy? Where do you store them? What happens when it's a light year and you've contracted for a lot more? How do you get it in the back of your truck? Where does that happen around here? Do you contract with somebody up the road and then you drive your truck up to there and you haul it out of there and then you bring it down and you light it? So it's pre-treating and then it's afterwards. So that became its own animal, the whole thing of salt and cinders. The other piece is, you're right about management, but you're also talking about managing, it's a, and you're right, okay, so maybe the water people are not working during the day, and maybe they're called out to plow at 3 in the morning. And they don't normally go out anywhere at 3 in the morning, usually they're snug as a bug in the road in their bed at 3 in the morning, but they're called out to plow at 3 in the morning. And they plow all the way till noon, and now the roads are clear, and they could go out and read some meters. So now what are we gonna do? And so there's that kind of thing that you have to think about, that they are still 24-hour human beings. There's that. The other thing that we talked about is that the worst thing for maintenance and longevity of a vehicle is to put a plow in front of it and plow snow with it. And that it all sounds fine and good while you're running it, and that's a new truck, and holy cow, I bet it can move a whole lot of snow. But come March, when you go and you take that thing in for maintenance, then what? And so these are just things to think about. I did not pull my paperwork out about it. We did an extensive study about it. And it's not just one vehicle, it's like, okay, so you got that big vehicle, but you might need a smaller vehicle to not get around the smaller streets. And what do you do about when you've got so much snow that you've gotta put it into a truck and move it somewhere else? Where are you gonna do that? Who's gonna do, it gets really has a lot of tentacles, and that's why it got dropped. And so I'm more than happy to pull that, but these are the things off the top of my
I
head.
think it'd be good to pull that, in order to have something that we can spec out. After you've really pointing out the fact of the logistics trail and tail that comes with this, especially simply having to figure out how much you're going to provision, and that's the advantage of the contractor, is if they're serving multiple
Right.
jurisdictions, they have more leeway. If they order too much salt, it's not going to mean that they have this tremendous overage. I feel persuaded that it would be a nice thing to be able to do, but the number of challenges we would have to solve, and even if we did, depending on the snow in a particular year, our plan all blows up versus having a plan. It could be in the future, we could, if we had more capacity in town, or weather patterns rapidly changing, we're starting to get a lot more snow, we know we need to have a lot more.
Yeah, and I do have a question too about the sidewalks and the shoveling that
Let
we
me
just
talk
had.
about
After that.
And I'm gonna talk to sidewalks.
Was that contracted last year?
Yes,
Yeah.
so the way our ordinances are written, a homeowner, it has to be Washington Street, it's the only sidewalks we have, public sidewalks. And so they would have to clear them in within 8 hours. I think it's
Of the end of the storm.
end of the storm, within 8 hours, okay. So, last year, I don't know what happened the year before with the other RS excavating, but I know last year that Mayor Bishop elected to have them cleared by Cornerstone. I'm all for it. The reason being, I think residents on Washington Street are subjected to more noise, more everything, more traffic, I'm just talking overall. I see it as just one thing the town should do, is to clear those sidewalks. Because so many of those places won't get cleared. We're gonna have to be clearing it, and we're gonna have to bill them.
Yeah,
And that's not gonna be a pleasant,
I totally agree with you. I think that, well, for one thing, we have so many homes that are
They're
not
empty.
resided in now that that's an issue. Just finding who's, if no one's home, how do we go this
Homeowners
through?
not flying in from
That's
Iowa
yeah.
to shovel the walk.
this is on the tree committees having.
And I think it was so effective last year. I think it's been 2 years, really. But we didn't have so much snow the year before. Yeah. And we've become so dependent on the tourism, and it made it safer for.
It is safer. It was hard on that Cornerstone. I know
Yeah.
they struggle, and people complain about the bags they left and.
Now,
That guy
now
was-
if we're talking
Room for improvement, but on the whole, yes.
if you're talking about the town taking ownership of something, that it might be that the sidewalks would be one step that we could talk about, because that would not have to be done at 2 o'clock in the morning. And there's a little bit more manageable issue with the salts and
That's
all
an
the
That's a
interesting
good
thought.
point.
That's an
Yeah.
interesting thought.
I can tell you that Cornerstone did it last year, down in the Lower Town merchants, they've never seen this, it's so nice.
Yeah.
Really, it was a good job, I think it's a good point.
That's a good point, and I think that I know that at the we had a budget and finance meeting about the snow work that was done at the close of the season. And it wasn't about that, it was on the topic, and we talked about it. And we discussed that we were all very concerned and upset about how much money had been spent, and even Cornerstone, I think, felt like they just didn't know, they thought they were doing a good job, but they didn't know. And we concluded that absolutely positively, when whoever we enter into contract for, we have to come up with very precise protocol and very clear direction about what we're going to do and what we expect. and when we expect it. Because I think one of the big things about the sidewalks was that rather than waiting until the storm was over, they were doing it all the time. Now, the other side of that is when there's a lot of snow, if you wait until there's 2.5 feet of snow to remove from the sidewalk, that's also an issue. So these are all things that just become layer upon layer that need to be vetted out, and vetting them out with a contractor is gonna be enough work between now, which is September, and snow time, versus trying to do that with our own art thing that is not off the ground.
Well, that might be our output in action right now, which is, you know, and absolutely, we should try to get 3 bids. I understand that wasn't possible.
Well, we've been into the same thing that we
been
literally
getting
had
3
to
bids.
call people and say,
We were
please.
begging them.
But that's my understanding.
That's how hard it is to get people, and I can tell you Cornerstone was very, I got directly involved in innovation. For whatever reason, was busy. So I ended up doing it, and I'm telling you, it's a terrible job. I mean, to try to help manage this. And
But that just needs to be sorted in this administration. We need to make a clear chain of command of how it's going to work. And I think Mayor Vaughn will support that and
Mayor Vaughn.
help to organize that, so.
So is there an action that we need to take right now?
well, you can't, it's just a it
Oh,
was
it's
just a
discussion.
discussion. And the other thing is, see, I'm the head of the parking committee, and it's our #1 revenue producer, or one of the biggest. And I've been very concerned about making sure that the street's clear enough, not just for the vehicles to drive, but also to park. Because usually a day or two after the storms, if you leave all that snow there, it gets frozen in, it's just, we're gonna lose parking, and we'll still get visitors, particularly on Potomac Street.
That I was gonna say, that was the thing that I noticed, because again, I see Potomac Street, that, figuring out where to put the snow.
Well,
And that, in a way
yes.
that,
I had to help them up here to get rid of, like, the Lutheran church, they had to push it off to the side, yes.
but I think they just didn't know, because
They didn't know.
well, there's the barriers to get to Potomac Street, just to say you can move those, and put it in Potomac Street, just because it's not a road, it's not a route, it's not currently an emergency route, that it would not be a problem to have it there.
So all that needs to
Yeah,
be
and
sorted
Potomac-
and discussed.
And I told them, I said, Potomac Street, yeah, you cleared the street good, but you did not clear any of our parking out. And they have they have a lot of head-on parking, so it's a lot of stuff. And that has to go, we have to have that clear. And then you have to call them back in, and that's the same thing with these errant cars parked on, it's a pain in the neck when somebody parks and there's a snowstorm. I had to call them back in, and it costs us money every time I call them back, you need to come back and get this.
I know we can't do the snow emergency route, but I wonder if, like, there is a snowstorm bearing down, it is going to hit, it's a done thing. If it would be possible to have like a little, not a ticket, but just something that says, please move your car.
Well, I wish that the police could do it, and as a courtesy, you know, not from the neighbor, you know, they know whose car it is, and just ask, could you pull your car? Could you park at town hall? Or if you can't park at your own property, just get it off
And
the side of the road.
all these things together are what would be part of the snow protocol that would be the sequence that when it happens, it'll be very clear and it's not scrambling to do it.
I do think that the snow bidding, I think, is coming on the agenda for the council meeting. So, I mean, discussion of that.
Snow bidding,
I believe so.
Is
That
it?
it should, if maybe coordinate with the mayor, I'm pretty sure he has it on his radar, but we certainly should.
well, last year we got kind of caught.
Well, right, I mean,
Right.
it needs to get in.
Yeah.
We should have been really on it.
Should have been on
last
this,
month, Yeah,
well, it should be on this month's agenda.
so that's what I'm saying, just check,
Okay.
and I think he has it in his list, but, yeah.
No, this is what snow is.
Okay, so,
right.
did we finish on the snow?
I
Meet
think
that
we're
pieces.
so done with snow.
All right, we beat the snow, we don't have any old business, I looked at it, and the grill's coming fine, guys. So,
Oh, yeah, looks fantastic, yeah.
Good.
yeah, the grates are supposed to be in here just any day, okay? So, and it's designed to be a fire on one side, like just have a fire in it, and the other side's a cooking side.
Right.
And look at it, tell me whether you want it to get cleaned. I didn't have it cleaned.
Yeah, we saw him working on it.
I like it the way it is, but if you think it needs to be sprayed, we can get that ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, frankly, I'm worried that, any washing might cause it to crumble again. Exactly. It's kind of full part.
Believe me, I went in there 3 times talking to Dave and.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty confident it'll hold.
Oh, no, it's not a workmanship, it's the material itself.
Yeah. Okay, so I move that we close our meeting tonight. All those in favor? Or second, all those in favor? Okay. All right, it was a long meeting, but we covered some big